Hello and welcome to the Blockade Runner podcast number 275. My name is John. Joining me today is Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Good afternoon. It is afternoon where you
Yeah.
are. It's still morning here.
Yeah, you are where they have the glowweed farms, I think. Isn't that out there in Colorado? It's where they do the glowweed
We
farms.
we certainly have weed farms here.
Okay. That's a little spoiler, getting ahead of myself, reference to Skeleton Crew episode 6, where there's a reference to a glowweed farm. We're going to start, though, today by talking about Skeleton Crew episode 5. So we have not recorded an episode since we talked about number 4. So it was Christmas, it was New Year's, it was holidays, we were busy, but now we're back and we're going to talk about episode 5 and episode 6. There's only 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew left, unfortunately. So we're getting close to the end, but we're going to talk about both of those episodes here in just a second. Ryan, how was your holidays? Any new Star Wars stuff? Did you get any Star Wars like Christmas presents or anything like that? No.
My holidays were fine, normal. Yeah, no, no Star Wars outside of watching these episodes of Star Wars television.
Okay. All right. Nice. I bought myself a couple Star Wars presents. I got the Ahsoka and Mandalorian season 3 Blu-rays.
Mm-hmm.
So I have those. That's good. My grandma bought me the Return of the Jedi. What's the book called? It's from, my God, it came out like last year. It's like a visual archive, I think is what it's called, something like that. And it's from not Toshin, not Abrams, Inside Editions. Inside Editions,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, Ian, our friend Ian, recommended it a while back. He's a big fan of Return of the Jedi, and I've been meaning to get it for a while. So I just got that, but haven't really had time to read it. And then the other thing I got was the Star Wars. I sent you some pictures of this, Ryan. The Star Wars Cards Against Humanities card game. Cards Against
Yeah.
Humanity, not Against Humanities. I don't think that would the Humanity Cards Against Humanity, and it says Family Edition on it, and it is not for families. So if anybody finds themselves at Target or wherever that comes from, and you see Cards Against Humanity Family Edition, don't buy it. Or buy it if you want to, because it's kind of funny, but it is not for families. It's crude and rude.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Lots
Yeah,
of tude.
exactly. Yeah, yep. So, okay, well, who cares? It's January 2025. Enough about the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
Skeleton Crew episode 5. You have a lot to learn about pirates, which was directed by Jake Schreier. And the writer of this episode and episode 6 is Myung-Jo Westner, who I am not super familiar with, but I looked her up and she's written some other TV shows and things like that, and seems to be an up-and-comer and did an excellent job writing these 2 really, really great episodes of Skeleton Crew, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the writing of these episodes, Ryan?
I think they are very well written, very snappy, and they're telling the story they want to tell. There's some good character moments. I did want to shout out Jake Schreier here. This is the first thing I've actually seen from him. He was a music video director, as all great directors start in the music video realm, not unlike Rian Johnson.
What did he do?
He did like the Mountain Goats stuff, right?
I
Yeah.
probably I didn't remember that,
Maybe
but yeah,
David Fincher would
yeah,
be a better
sure.
um, example. I
Spike
don't.
Jonze, Michel Gondry,
Yeah. Yep.
the Lumiere brothers. No, not them. Okay.
Of course. But yeah, he directed music videos, including Haim, some Kanye West, but it was in 2019, so it's okay.
Oh, still allowed.
Um,
Okay.
but he's actually directing the upcoming Thunderbolts movie for Marvel
Okay.
that Harrison Ford is in. It's Harrison Ford's first Marvel project. So
What about what do you mean? What about the Captain America movie that he's all over the trailers for that's coming out in like 2 months?
oh yeah, I guess he is.
Is it? I don't even know what a Thunderbolt is, Ryan. Is that the same? Is he the same character in both?
Yeah, he's the General Ross, I think. Thunderbolts are like Marvel's I think the best way to, not the best way to put it, but the most the simplest way to put it is like Marvel's Suicide Squad kind of thing. They're like the rough and ragged kind of anti-heroes, sort of group team.
Okay.
But they're a little more hero-y, I think. But yeah, I guess Harrison Ford is debuting in the Falcon movie Brave New World coming out, and then he'll be in this Thunderbolts. But basically, the point is, it is a person who is directing a Star Wars thing will also direct Harrison Ford, who is a Star Wars man.
That's true. Yeah. Hey, maybe we can get that Marvel Star Wars crossover you were asking for.
That's what we want. Give me that multiverse bullshit. Everyone loves it. It sucks.
That's probably the treasure of Ad-Atten. Okay, so you have a lot to learn about pirates is the name of this episode, and it actually takes us back to Ad-Atten in the opening scene where we see Wim. Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. See, this is the problem with not doing episodes for like a couple weeks, because I'm like reading my notes about this episode and I'm like, wait, that's an old episode. But it's correct, right? It opens with Wim's and Neil's parents scheming to get a message back to the kids. Yeah. Okay. Because as I read that note, I was thinking to myself, oh, no. We already talked about the scene where Wim's dad and Fern's mom are having the conversation about sneaking evidence out or whatever, but this is different. We have this this opening scene where Wim's and Neil's parents are scheming, and Neil's mom gives Wim's dad the little device that he's going to use to like steal this information. And there's a great, really funny scene with the security droid who catches him. Did you enjoy the scene, Ryan? I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. This is like the most like movie TV show thing that could possibly happen, where it's like, okay, you got this device, you got to plug it into a computer, there's going to be like a bar that's telling you like how much time, and then it's gonna like do the thing, but there's like this external threat and you have to do the thing before the time runs out, but then it's all like played up very silly. There's like no actual tension or anything, because then he just like gets caught and there's like a goofy exchange. And
yeah, well, he holds it behind his back, and the droid's like, show me your other hand, and then he just like puts it in the other hand and then takes out the other hand, and then the droid's like, sir, show me both hands. And then it just cuts to him being in him being in Fern's mom's office, and she's like, I told you I'm working on this or whatever. And he's like, look, he's at his wit's end, it appears, and he's going through the proper channels is not working, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the final kind of line or moment of that scene is Fern's mom saying, okay, what's the plan, right? So basically, the scene ends, the opening of this episode ends with us, or I guess the parents of all the kids sort of being like on the same page of, it's not going to work just to go through the supervisor or whatever. We've got to like kind of, we have to do what we can, take it into our own hands and figure out, how to get our kids back. Right. So, But yeah, great opening scene and really funny. So I enjoyed that a lot. From there, we cut back to the Black Onyx, to the kids and to Jod. And there's this conversation there with SM-33, they wake him up again, right? Because obviously at the end of the previous episode, he had attacked and almost like really hurt Neil. And so when we cut back to them here at the beginning of this episode, they're on the ship and they've got him all tied down with like pirate ropes. He's like tied to the table or whatever. But they're talking to him, and he reveals that the previous captain of the Black Onyx is Tak Renid, and Jod is super hyped about that. Like, oh my God, that's that's a big league pirate.
Legend.
Yeah. And that the ship is the Black Onyx. And he did not know that previously. And that's like another very big deal, right? The Black Onyx, they're on this ship. So good stuff. SM-33, or I think Jod really like tells the kids and us as the audience the story about Tak Renid and the legend of Tak Renid and that kind of thing. So we see, Jod's really kind of gleaming about all that. And there's some funny moments I wrote down from the scene as well. Like when they're discussing Tak Renid, the word concubine comes up, and I think it's Neil who's like, "What's a concubine?" And that was a great moment. And obviously they they didn't go any further with that. And then at the end of the conversation, I forget, maybe you remember, but they ask 33 to do something, like maybe go take care of something, or do something. And he just like busts through the ropes, like no problem. Like the ropes were in no way holding him back. So that was fun.
Yeah. Good. Just very, very light, irreverent tone through this episode.
Yeah. And there's a sort of heartwarming little sequence that comes up after, which was, I guess now, in retrospect, it was a little bit of a swerve. I have to say, I suppose, in a way, I've been swerved, because on our very last episode, I was like, oh my God, he's such a good guy. Jod is such a good dude. Like, they're trying to make us think he's dangerous, and it's such a joke because he clearly has a heart of gold. I'm on record saying a lot of things about Jod like that on the last episode. And this scene that I'm about to bring up is a good example of why I felt that way, because he notices that Wim walks away kind of crying and goes to be off on his own, and he goes to like sort of see what's going on, right? And this is also funny because he sees that he's crying and he's like, oh boy, like, let me get out of here. Like, I don't want to deal with this, right? But then he ends up talking to him, and he has some good advice. He says some really good stuff to him. He tells him, let go of your attachments. He quotes Qui-Gon Jinn, Ryan, and says, your focus determines your reality. But then the best stuff he says, which I really loved, some Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, transcendentalist type stuff. He's like, you have imagination, embrace it. And then he also tells him, make your life the one you want to live. And I was like really touched. And I thought this was like great advice from a very nice paternal figure for these kids in Jod and Elwood. So is that how you read the scene, or did you were you taking him at his word, and did you feel like this was a good conversation and a good kind of moment on his part as well, or how did you take it?
I mean, I thought it was like very funny, like how much he did not want to be having this conversation, and at this point in the episode, you're supposed to be like, oh yeah, this isn't really his thing, but he cares about these kids, so he's gonna do it, but he's reluctant, and it's not really his jam, but it'll be fine, and it's good and heartwarming. And then that kind of makes everything that comes later. It recontextualizes the scene where it's like, actually he did not really care. He did not want to be in this conversation, and he just said like a bunch of kind of like BS in quotes just to kind of move it along.
Well, possibly. I'm going to double down. As embarrassing as it may turn out to be, I'm going to double down on, I think Jod is at heart a decent guy. I know, spoilers, but we're about to talk about it in a few minutes. I know he holds a knife up to Fern's throat and is like, don't make me hurt you.
Need to slit children's throats.
Screw you, kids. I'm going after some treasure, right? But all that, I'm like, you know what? I think he was being earnest in this scene. Like, he didn't want to have the conversation, as you point out. He was like, oh God, let me just like sneak away and let this kid cry in the corner by himself. But I don't think, to me, it's like there's no ulterior motive there. I mean, I guess you could argue like his intention is to really make these kids trust him so that he can, dig the knife into their backs more deeply, when it comes time to dump them off or whatever. But I think it was genuine advice he was given in the moment, and I think it will be interesting to see sort of what unfolds with Jod in the last two episodes, because I don't think that was the final kind of moment of his character arc, or whatever you want to call it, in the first season of the show, him holding the knife to Fern's throat. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, they end up though, because 33 tells him about Skull Ridge Mountain and Tak Rennett's secret lair on Skull Ridge Mountain. And this is another thing that just cracked me up. Like, this show continues to just make me laugh and surprise me and just be like such a joyful experience, because it's like, oh yeah, we got to go to Skull Ridge Mountain where the pirate base is, and it's just like a health spa for rich people when they get there.
Yeah. They like so leaning into the pirate stuff. Like, they are all in. They are committed to the bit.
Yeah. So that was really funny. 33 is like, what the hell? I mean, he doesn't say what the hell, but he's acting like, what the hell is this? Like, this is supposed to be for pirates. And they get there and it's this great spa. The wise elders bit like really cracked me up, dressing the kids up in all that like oversized gear and saying, oh yeah, well, I've got these wise elders with me because they find out kids aren't allowed. That's really funny. And there's more than one moment throughout the episode where one of the employees of the spa or whatever will be like, reference the wise elders to Jod, like, oh, and don't forget the wise elders or whatever. Like, it's so tongue in cheek, or so like they're so clearly telling him like, dude, nobody is buying this ridiculous disguise thing. So a lot of humor in that, which
just goofing off and playing grab ass the whole time.
Yeah. So that's some pretty funny stuff in this sequence or this location, this part of the episode. They put the restraining bolt on SM-33, which gets played for laughs a few times, where he's just like, violence, let's go, and then immediately like stopped in his tracks by the restraining bolt. So I enjoyed that too. But I guess the planet that they're on, where Skull Ridge Mountain is Lanupa. And the way Jod brought it up, like SM-33, where are we? Oh, it's Lanupa. Jod kind of acted like, Lanupa, that's where it is? Like, that's where your big pirate base is? So I don't know if that planet has shown up anywhere else, or if we're supposed to know what Lanupa is. I certainly don't remember it from anything else, so I think it's new, but I thought it was interesting. And as I was watching, I was thinking sort of like each of these last couple of episodes is sort of providing a different sort of like, I don't know what the word is, like illusion or facade, or like a different kind of like they go to these different planets, right? And every planet they go to is like offering up a different story for them, or a different kind of environment, like this one is like the illusion of luxury, and the illusion of like peace and sort of, luxury, but that's not really what it is, right? But the planet they were on in the previous episode, it was like adventure and excitement, but like really what it turned out to be is like these kids being like forced into being like child soldiers, and like they keep getting these different visions of, or these different I don't know if vision's not the right word, these different like examples of other kinds of worlds besides the world they come from. At least some of these kids, not Neil so much, but most of these kids are like, AT-AT is so boring and we couldn't wait to get away from it. And I feel like part of the sort of journey that they're going on is seeing all these different types of worlds, and is, I think, making them appreciate what AT-AT actually is, or what their childhood is, or their life at home is a little bit too. So, and then of course the bounty hunter shows up, Pocket, which is Kelly MacDonald. You pointed out to me, right? Yeah, Kelly MacDonald from Train Spotting and some other things. I didn't realize that was her. So I thought she's a pretty cool bounty hunter. Obviously, there's some history between her and Jod. I love the fact that in a very Star Wars way, at least like the way Star Wars used to do things in the original trilogy, especially, there's just like a reference to like, their past between her and Jod. I don't need to know what it is. Yep. You know what I mean?
Oh, you will.
What do you mean I will?
Whether or not you need to. There'll be a
novel or a comic series
or a comic or something.
Well, yeah, but the chances of me reading that are pretty slim. So maybe if it's a book, but I'm
hopefully they don't do it as a flashback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hopefully not a flashback. Yeah. But I just enjoy like the, like just referencing what happened between them in the past, but not feeling the need to explain it, leaving some mystery there and just doing some world building through, references like that. Right. So that's pretty cool. And then this next scene to me is pretty interesting, especially in terms of like me kind of thinking about who Jod is, or who Jod might be in the end, because he's trying to make a plan for finding the secret lair, and all the kids want to do is like jump on the bed and have a pillow fight, and they're not listening at all, and he kind of loses it. And I wrote down here that I feel like in that moment he's realizing like he needs to take over, like these kids, like, because the deal they have at the moment is like he works for them and they're in charge and all that. And I think in this moment he's sort of like, okay, I can't let the kids be calling the shots, and I can't really count on them to be partners in this because they're kids. You know what I mean? And so I thought that was a kind of a telling moment, and maybe part of his motivation towards the end of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this moment really like decided his heel turn or anything. Like, I think it was. I mean, the plan was always just to like use the kids until, to get what he wanted, and until he couldn't use them anymore and needed to like break it off.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like deliberating in his head like, oh, should I turn on these kids? I can't decide, or anything like that. I don't think he's having like an existential crisis about it. Like, I think the plan was always like going to use these kids until I get what I want.
Yeah, probably, but I kind of felt like the plan was these kids need to get home. I want to get to Ed Atten. That's where the treasure is. You know what I mean? Like, this is perfect. Mm-hmm. This is like kismet, right? This is perfect for me. Like, they need to get home. I want to get there. Like, I don't know enough to get there without them. Like, let's work together, and like, we're both going to get what we want. And I'm not sure if the plan was the second I get the coordinates, I don't give a damn about these kids and I'm going to dump them out the airlock or, leave them like to fend for themselves necessarily. Certainly, I think like, especially at this point, maybe the idea is, I'll ride this out as long as I can ride it out. But if for some reason it's going to get in my way or whatever, then, I'll drop them or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I want to think that he wasn't just like, oh man, I can't wait till I can just dump these kids off. Like, they think I give a damn about them, and I could not care less. I'm not sure if it's, because certainly he's primarily motivated by treasure, right? He's a pirate. He wants his treasure, like, no doubt about that. I'm not arguing that. Like, he wants his treasure, but I don't think it has to be completely one or the other. Like, just because like his primary motivation is the treasure doesn't necessarily mean that he's just been, chomping at the bit to double cross these kids. Like, he could have hoped for, like, didn't we bring up DJ from The Last Jedi, the last episode too? Like, I think DJ would have been happy for it to work out for everybody if it would have worked out for everybody. But then, like, when it became clear it wouldn't, then he was like, okay, well then I'll go the other way, right? So yeah, that's probably where Jod is. But part of me thought, I don't know. He's like, look, I need to take over, and making myself captain. They're not going to let me be captain. They're not going to offer me that role or whatever. So what's the opportunity to become captain? Like, and even if it breaks their little hearts, or even if it makes them not like me or whatever, like, if that's what I need to do to accomplish what I want to accomplish, which would also mean getting them home, then that's what we'll do. Because he does tell, we haven't gotten there yet, but he does tell 33, like, take them prisoner, right? So if 33 is going to take them prisoner, he's going to put them on the Black Onyx. Jod's going to go there, dump them off with their families, or dump them back off on Ed Atten and go get his treasure, right? So it's a heel turn, but, how much of a heel turn is it? And will he stick with that in the end or not,
I mean, it's Star Wars, so he'll probably be redeemed in his final moments. Like,
oh, I don't think final. You think
definitely gonna eat it?
Oh, no way. No way. We got to cut this, clip this out. We got to cut this out and clip this out for the finale.
No, he's definitely like going out an airlock or something by the end, but he'll like do like the one more heroic thing to like save the kids. Okay. I want to put it out there. I want to be bold right now, Ryan. I'm going to put it out there. I say 0% chance Jod Nanawwood dies in this season of Skeleton Crew. 0%. Well, you say this season like there's going to be another one, so...
Well, okay, well, I could just say he's never going to die
in
then.
The entirety
he'll never die.
Crew, which
he'll never die.
Season.
Yeah.
No, he's totally going to eat it.
All right, it'll be interesting to return to this conversation, and we'll see where it goes. After that, the kids are looking around. They meet Cathalops. Is that how you say it? They said his name plenty of times in the episode. The creature that they meet, I think it's Cathalops. But now that I'm saying it out loud, after having not watched the episode for a week, it sounds wrong. But I think it's Cathalops, who helps them find the entrance to the secret pirate lair, and he likes them because they tell him a story. And so he's like, this is a good story. Yeah, so he helps them kind of get down there. There are some Indiana Jones, Goonie-style booby traps around, which is fun. And as they're getting closer there, it really reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, with the traps and stuff, that the kind of final test that Indy and his dad have to go through in that last temple. And in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but there's the acid bath there, right? And it's like, oh, they're about to just step in or dive into that pool, and they realize, oh wait, this is acid. And especially the line too, because they read like the language or the code on the wall or the ceiling or whatever it is, and it says, all who enter must make the greatest sacrifice. And that kind of reminded me of the sort of like the puzzle or whatever from Last Crusade at the end. But yeah, so the kids obviously assume the greatest sacrifice would be their lives, somebody's life. It was like a dark moment for a second. I think it was KB was like, yeah, somebody's going to have to give up their life, you know? And Jod, being a pirate who is, like we said, primarily motivated by treasure, is like, no. For a pirate, the greatest sacrifice is cash money. So he tells them they have to cough up the last whatever they have left of their Old Republic credits and tosses it into that acid bath, and it drains. And so, kind of puzzle unlocked, I guess is what puzzle solved there, which is a cool moment. But to me too, I think like all who enter must make the greatest sacrifice. I think that's the choice that Jod is ultimately going to have to make at the end of the season here, is, like to make that sacrifice to give up that treasure, but we will see. But then they end up in this great pirate slayer full of treasures. The kids want to start touching everything again, very much like Indiana Jones. Jod's like, no, don't touch anything. Well, I guess Goonies too maybe has that kind of vibe too, like don't touch things, because there's booby traps everywhere. But they're being pursued by the pirates, of course. And Ryan, did you interpret it this way or not? I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. Did Jod melt Urkel in an acid bath? Like, is Urkel dead?
Like when the doors are shut and like,
yeah, and he tells 33, I think it's 33, right? He tells 33 to like fill it up with acid again.
Yeah.
And then you hear people screaming, and I'm like, that's Urkel out there. Did he just melt Urkel?
I'm sure he kills like a dozen dudes right there.
Okay.
That's definitely how I interpreted it. Like,
but you don't seem particularly worried that Jaleel White may be one of them.
I don't think he died in real life.
Okay. All right.
I think he's fine.
Okay.
I think that's just the movie, but the TV show. But yeah, I guess we did not see a body, so you never know.
Yeah. Maybe
he'll come back in the penultimate episode with some burnage, but maybe
sometimes
out of it.
Sometimes in Star Wars, even when you see a body, you still don't know. You know what I mean?
Still don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Darth Maul, for instance. All right. Well, there is a hollow of Tak Rened, and this I got a kick out of too, or I thought was pretty interesting. Tak Rened in the hollow reveals that Ad-Atten is an Old Republic mint. And the kids kind of slowly piece together like, oh, what's a mint? Like, it means they make money there. Like, so is that the great work? Seems like it, right? The great work of everybody on Ad-Atten and the parents is that they have this Old Republic mint and they can keep producing this currency. But the hollow of Tak Rened, like, it's obscured. The hollow like cuts in and out, and you can't see like the face of Tak Rened or whatever. So are you expecting some kind of reveal or some kind of mystery regarding the actual identity of Tak Rened? Or do you think that was like just to give it some kind of atmosphere or intrigue or something like that?
Yeah, to me it was just like, this is like old, I guess. Or like it's no, I don't.
So you don't think Tak Rened will be played by Johnny Depp or something?
I mean, problematic. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it's like a glup shit or anything. Like, maybe it is. Maybe it'll be someone who was in like some episode of the Clone Wars or something that people are gonna poop their pants over. But
well, or even it could just be like a species thing, like it's not like I think necessarily it's gonna be, oh, it turns out Han Solo is Tak Rened or something, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, but I don't know. I just feel like there seems to be some kind of little bit of intrigue there for me, and I'm not sure what it'll turn out to be, or maybe we won't even see Tak Rened again. I don't know.
What if it's another Jedi? How cool would that be?
Probably not that cool. Wouldn't be that cool necessarily. But what if it was Hondo Anaka? I don't think that would really make sense, but I would like to see Hondo.
No.
He's a pirate.
Yeah. Don't do that.
What if it was Wrecker?
Don't do that.
It'd be cool if it was Wrecker.
Who's that?
Ryan, stop. You hate him. He's from the Bad Batch. Wrecker. Like,
oh yeah. That guy sucks.
I love Wrecker. That'd be
I
fun.
don't even know how timeline stuff would work.
Well, this is like during the timeline of the Mandalorian, or a little bit after the
Yeah.
Mandalorian. So I think those guys would
And
still be around.
Bad Batch is post Clone Wars. Oh, they
Post Clone
didn't
Wars.
all die in the finale.
No, they did
Hmm.
not. You should go back and watch that because it's one of the best Star Wars shows in a long time. It's very good.
Mm.
Yeah, it turned out so great, even though I didn't want to watch it at all. It's like this show, Ryan. Like you didn't want to watch Skeleton Crew, and now like look how great it's turned out.
Hmm.
But you have
It's
watched a lot of
fun.
Bad Batch, so that
I
argument doesn't
did.
really work.
I
You
think
gave
that
it
show
a
sucks,
college,
but
yeah. You gave it a fair,
yeah,
yeah.
those guys are annoying.
Okay, so Jod invokes the pirate's code to become captain.
Hmm.
We talked about it, a fair amount already, but he tells Fern, just say you yield, and I won't have to hurt you.
Hmm.
You get to watch the heartbreak on the kids' faces, especially Wim, right? Wim so badly wanted to believe in Jod and wanted to believe in Jod as
Just
like
like
this.
you.
Yeah, like me.
Just like you.
That's me. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Child's mind.
Yep. But I thought Jude Law, I feel like every second Jude Law has been on screen in Skeleton Crew, he's been like really, really great. Like I feel like
Hmm.
I'm sure he cost a lot, but he's been worth it because he's been really, really good. Although they probably won't make a season 2 because of the budget, and he probably eats up a lot of it. But anyway, I really think he's great. I think he's really, really
Unless
great.
you kill him in the
No, they're
last
not doing that.
episode.
I think he's really great, and I think he's like genuinely threatening in this scene, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually I really like the heel turn here. It's
yeah,
kind of like in wrestling. There's people, they try to make them a face for as long as they can, and then it's like just try being a heel. Insult that local sports team, and then it's like, oh damn, yep, this is what you were born to be.
but I feel
This is right.
feel like Jod is like Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston of the New Day right now. The New Day are like a team that it felt like they could never go heel. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And they have now healed out on. I don't know if you know this or not, but they've healed out on Big E, in a heartbreaking turn on Big
Mm.
E. Yeah, big story I won't go into right now since we're recording a podcast about a completely different subject. But
That doesn't track. Doesn't fit their characters.
it doesn't, but they are totally like they're getting the Dom Mysterio, like they get into, and when they walk out in front of the crowd, like they don't even get to speak, like they put the microphone up to their mouth and they're getting booed so hard that like
Mm.
people won't even let them talk. This has been going on for
Mm.
3 or 4 weeks now, so they are in heel mode. The locker room, oh my god, man, Rey Mysterio, he could barely look at these guys now. Anyway, point is they are heels at this point in the storyline, but to me it's like, okay, this is 6 months, maybe a year of them as a heel, but where they really belong is as a babyface. And sometimes you do the heel turn and it's good, but it's a short detour before you end up returning to being a face. And that's what I see for Jod and I would myself personally.
We'll see.
Yeah. How did you? I think one moment that could potentially be controversial. It didn't really bother me, but I'm not sure that it 100% like was perfect for me either. Was Wim's sort of attempted hero moment where he's like going to take that lightsaber and try to save Fern. I laughed out loud both times I watched it, but like when he turned the lightsaber on and it just like shot straight into the floor and went skidding across the room or whatever. It was funny, but I guess it was the right way to play that moment. But it just bordered a little bit like on too goofy for me.
Too goofy?
I don't know. Yeah,
In this show?
yeah, but this is a
I
pretty
felt like
intense
it totally
scene.
tracked.
It's a pretty intense scene, and
Totally tracked.
his little heart just got broken. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I love The Last Jedi, as you know, but when Luke tosses that lightsaber, it's not that I don't think the script should say he tosses the lightsaber, but there's just something about the way he does it where it's like it could have been like slightly less flippant, and I think it would have been better. And like they maybe played it like 10 or 20%. They played it too much for laughs, and if they would have toned down the chasing the laugh part a little bit, like it could have been more subtly funny, but like not so slapsticky. That's maybe how I feel about the.
I don't think it's a laugh though. It's more of like a ha. It's like a.
You talking The Last Jedi?
I think in both. Like I didn't. Yeah, I mean I don't like crack up and start slapping my knee when Luke throws the lightsaber. every time. I do not have tears in my eyes when Wim uh shoots the lightsaber into the floor there and it goes skidding. It's more of just like a ha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's cool. It's good
Okay.
with the lightsaber.
Okay.
Yeah. All lightsaber related humor is good. Is what I'm saying. Any lightsaber jokes
I've
I'm
got
all
some
for.
cards from Cards Against Star Wars that may
Mm,
challenge you on that. All right, sure.
okay.
So, yeah, with Wim's hero moment completely botched, then Fern has to yield. Jod orders SM-33 to take the kids prisoner, but Wim pulls on the sort of like escape hatch thing, the booby trap like
Mm,
seat thing, and that's where the no, it's not where the episode ends. They disappear down that chute, but the final shot of the episode is Jod using the Force to call that lightsaber to him, and he holds it in his hand and he kind of smirks, and it seems like a dark kind of like dangerous look on his face,
mm-hmm.
smirk on his face. And then in a great choice in terms of editing and just cutting the show together, you hear it ignite but you don't see it, like the sound of the ignition of the lightsaber is paired with the cut to black, and the
Yeah.
scene, the episode ends. I thought that was great.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah.
So we have a whole nother episode to talk about, which we will do here in just a second. But any final thoughts on this one, Ryan?
The only other thing I had in my notes that we did not touch on is bad news, everyone. Bad ship CG is back in this episode.
Yeah.
There's a scene with a ship that looked like in PS1 JRPGs when you have pre-rendered backgrounds and then you have like the polygonal character running around on top of the backgrounds in, Final Fantasy 7 or like even like the Resident Evil games or something. It looked like that. It was just like this very awkward like, oh, yep, this does not feel like a thing that's happening. But yeah. So, we had a good run without bad ship CG, but reared its ugly head in this episode.
All right. Well, we're going to transition to talking about the sixth episode of Skeleton Crew, which is called Zero Friends Again. And we'll see, Ryan, if the bad ship CG, if you feel like the bad ship CG makes a return in this episode as well, or if it was a one-time thing. But yeah, this episode, Zero Friends Again, is again written by Myung-Jo Wessner. And this one is directed by returning favorite Bryce Dallas Howard. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bryce
Top
Dallas Howard.
Star Wars director.
She's a good one. She is a good one for sure. Yeah, she did a great job with this episode. And this is a very emotional episode. It really focuses on the kids primarily and the relationship between them. It's a KB episode, which I feel like a lot of people have been asking for.
Yeah.
Sort of saying like, I feel like we've gotten to know the other kids pretty well, but not KB so much. So I think it's welcome in that regard. But yeah, I mean, she did a great job, as did those kids, as did the young actors in this episode. So came together very well, in my opinion. It opens up, obviously, like this is sort of a two-parter, right? Written by the same person and ends on that cliffhanger of the kids going down the chute at the end of the last episode. So this one opens up with them kind of sliding down that escape chute type thing. I hate to keep bringing it up, but the Goonie vibes are pretty strong. There's moments just like that in Goonies, or a moment just like that in Goonies. So, and I saw Jeremy Parrish tweeting, or not tweeting, but posting about that on Blue Sky. I don't know if you caught that post or not, but he was like, I forget what he posted, but it was basically something along the lines of like, for everyone who sort of suggested this wasn't Goonies in space, like the opening of this episode is so Goonies.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But who was telling you it's not Goonies in space? Because that's exactly what it is, But yeah, so they go down the chute, they pop out into the snow, and KB is not getting up with the rest of the kids, and it turns out that they need to reset her occipital link. And I don't know that we really knew much about her, what would you call it, like her visor sort of headpiece type thing. Obviously shades of Lobot there, right? And that sort of thing. But I don't know that we really knew much about it. I hadn't thought a lot about it.
No.
But, you know, it's revealed here that this is a really necessary piece of equipment for her, something that helps her maintain a, you know, her lifestyle and sort of like keep up with the rest of these kids. But a big part of what the episode kind of wrestles with or explores is the fact that, you know, she is sort of has a sort of differently abled than the rest of these kids, right? Because of an accident that she had previously. And that's something that she really struggles with, but is kept bottled up.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is really interesting. This whole plot here kind of grabbed me right from the beginning, and I think they handled it really well. We don't we rarely, if at all, see disabilities explored in Star Wars. And honestly, like, I didn't, for her, I was just like, this is, she's just like wearing that, and she's just like this archetype of Star Wars character, just like a younger version of it. And, you know, this is what makes her stand out. And, makes her toyetic too. Like, you know, you have a distinguishing feature on a character, and then, you know, they're easily recognizable. But yeah, I was not really expecting them to kind of explore a child, you know, coming to not coming to terms with, but she has come to terms with her disability, but how she, you know, explains it to others, and how she kind of deals with, like you said, everything she has bottled up related to the disability. And it leads, you know, it's kind of the core of her, like, conflict with Fern that has, you know, been building, that Fern just doesn't really know about and has not been very aware of. So I think that's explored in interesting ways in this episode, and I think they took like a very thoughtful approach to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well handled in terms of the writing and direction, and it's really cool too to think about, like, this is a Star Wars show that features like child protagonists, you know, and that hopefully a lot of kids are watching. I don't know how many kids are watching it. I hope a lot of kids are watching it, you know.
Probably only if their parents are
Yeah.
making them watch.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if the marketing has been, you know, totally stellar in terms of getting kids to watch the show or not, but my son Elliot loves it, you know, and he was like, didn't want to go to the premiere with me, you know, at the theater. He was like, I'm sick of these Star Wars shows. Or he didn't say it like that. Like, he likes Star Wars. He has Star Wars Legos. He got Star Wars Legos for Christmas. He plays with lightsabers. Like, he likes Star Wars, but he's in this weird phase where, like, we watched Empire Strikes Back a week or two ago, and he chose not to watch it because he's like, oh, that movie sucks. And, you know, my wife and my son and I are like, you are the only human being on the earth who's saying that right now. What are you talking about? Like, and the last time we watched it, you loved it. So, but now all of a sudden it sucks. It's just like, I don't know. He's just in that kind of phase or whatever, right? Which is fine. But he loves this show. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it was not like an automatic, like, oh, it's Star Wars. He's a kid. He'll love it. Like, he's being kind of picky lately, and sometimes wanting to resist some of the stuff that we might want him to be into or whatever. And he loves this show. Like, he is hyped for it. He really, really enjoys it. So I've been rambling, but the point I was trying to make is that I hope a lot of kids are watching this show. And it's moving to think about the fact that, you know, for kids who do have disabilities, or kids who maybe have illnesses or things that make them feel different from other kids, or like they can't keep up with other kids, or, you know, whatever it may be, like, for them to be able to see themselves reflected in a character like KB is really great, you know. And I don't know how common that is in, you know, literature or media for kids. And so I think that's pretty special. And they did a great job of not only handling it in this episode, but also not making it feel like, to go back to the Bad Batch, I love the Bad Batch, but it is so obviously like you have these different archetypes, right? And each character fits their sort of archetype, right? Like, Raphael's the pissed off Ninja Turtle, Leonardo's the leader Ninja Turtle, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it could have been really kind of like overbearing, where, you know, KB's the kid with the disability, and that is not like what her character has been. That's not what the show has been. So it's just, I think, like, so much more thoughtfully handled than that, and it makes it feel that much more, I think, authentic. You know, I can't, obviously I don't like have that personal understanding myself, but I would imagine for people who may see themselves reflected in KB, that it would feel more real and more relatable in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff from Star Wars. Speaking of good stuff from Star Wars, the next kind of shot or scene is Jod emerging from a manhole. Speaking of Ninja Turtles, Jod emerging from a manhole,
Mm-hmm.
just comically draped in treasure, pirate treasure.
Yes.
Which is really good. And he's like, "Oh, I'm glad you guys are here." Like there's like a whole line of people that are clearly like not happy with him. And he's like, "Oh, I'm glad you guys are here. I need my ship fueled up. I'm ready to go. Like, let's check out most expressly, please," or whatever he says. But of course, I guess we actually just solved the great debate because the Jaleel White character Gunter is there and ready to take him prisoner. So I guess he didn't get burned up by acid. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So that's good.
It very much had Han Solo in The Force Awakens. Tasu Leech, good to see you.
I never made any
Vibes,
deal
yeah.
with Kanji Club. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I love that.
Love that scene so much. Classic.
Yeah. Yep. So, of course, Pocket, played by Kelly McDonald, is nearby. She's smiling because, gotcha, buddy. And she tells him, no hard feelings. Hope there's no hard feelings there. And so they take him prisoner and they take him aboard their ship and they take off. Jod and 33 also. Jod and 33, which is also funny because 33 comes up from the manhole. He's like, 33 attack. And they immediately like disable him. Like they shoot him like in 1 second. So like that was your great plan. And it lasted about a quarter of a second and you are cooked. So yeah. And from there, Jod is kind of taken off the board at that point. We do cut back to him. We'll talk about it when we do. But like for the most part now we're on this planet of what's it called? Lanupa. And it's about the kids for the rest of the episode. So they are down at the bottom of this like escape chute system or whatever. And they see the black onyx at the top of the mountain. And it's like, okay, well, we just have to get back up there. KB reveals that she has the coordinates sort of in her, memory unit or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
When did she get those? I was thinking about that today when I was rewatching. I'm like, I don't remember when she would have gotten those coordinates. Maybe from Kim, the owl. Did Kim give them to her too? Because like they had a moment where Kim was like, if you ever need me, like call me or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when she got them. Or maybe she plugged into SM33 or into the ship or something. But anyway, she's got the coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's an answer to that question, but she has the coordinates. And so they just need to get back to the ship. And if they do, they're good to go. Fern, who is acting as the leader, as she has been, is like, well, that's perfect. And that sets KB off. That's perfect. We'll just climb up this really, really tall ladder, which is super dangerous. And you just have to climb for like 30 minutes straight. And then it's perfect. Then we'll get back on our ship, And that sets KB off because she's like, it's not perfect. What are you talking about? Like, that's not a good plan. And she tells Fern also, like, maybe if you listened, we would explore some different options or whatever. So it just kind of like the boiling point is reached. It all boils over and they have their kind of their argument there and they end up splitting up. They decide to part ways, or not part ways, but they decide to break into like two different teams. And Wim and KB are going to follow these little crab creatures who keep saying, follow, follow, follow. They're like little robot crab creatures.
Yep.
Yeah, while Fern and Neil are going to climb up to the ship.
Reluctantly, Neil.
Yeah.
Neil just kind of gets pulled into it.
Yeah, because KB had even said like, or not KB, but Fern had even said, how are we going to trick the boys into doing this? Because I'm not even sure Neil will be able to climb up that ladder or whatever, right? So that was kind of ominous. But yeah, so they split up and the whole thing with the crabs is pretty good. Like they're stop motion crabs. And obviously we'll get to the Phil Tippett like monster crab that they arrive to eventually.
So good.
But they were cute. They were funny. I like the fact that they just kept saying follow, follow. And they kind of reminded me of those little creatures from Ahsoka on the planet where Ezra is.
Yeah, similar vibes.
Yeah. But there's a great sort of scene between KB, or not KB, sorry. KB and Wim, where she's having all the issues with her kind of hardware there. And Wim has to help her out, right? So it's a lot of ingenuity there in terms of like, okay, well, we got to find, like KB knows exactly what to do, like find the pieces from some of this scrap around here. And then we're going to like melt it down and mold it into, like she uses the piece that they need to replace from her her headset and makes a mold in the sand, so it'll be the same size. Like it's all pretty. It was pretty clever. I thought it was pretty clever.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel tension there, Ryan? Because like that was something that was like certainly necessary, like a race against the clock. Like, are we going to get this piece made in time? I thought it was pretty tense. I'm not saying I thought she was going to die there, but it's still like you felt some tension. I thought.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I felt any strong sense of tension there. No, I mean I think again like what's more interesting than like the action on screen is just the kind of the conversations and like her explaining her disability and why it's so difficult for others to understand and why she struggles to articulate it. You know, there's a part I think it's in the scene where she says, "Ever since my accident, Fern pretended I'm not different, but I am different."
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really powerful.
Yeah, like Wim points out, like, oh, well, she doesn't treat you any differently, and she's like, yeah, but I am different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, that was good for sure, and it was good too because Wim gets to do something heroic that's not. It's heroic, but it's heroic in a way that like real people can be heroes, not
Yes.
grabbing a lightsaber,
Jedi.
turning on it upside down, and having it skitter across the room or
Yeah.
whatever. Like maybe you don't need to follow people like Jadana would to be a hero. Maybe you just need to be a doctor or a nurse or something, or whatever, a person who
Yeah.
who can help in real ways. So yeah, but yeah, a great moment. I thought it was pretty touching. I think I teared up. I know I teared up later on in the episode. So that's
Okay.
props to K. K would suggest that you didn't feel even the tiniest little tear threatening to escape down your cheek as you watched the episode, Ryan.
I did not, but I like that for you.
Never tense, never feels, no threat to anyone in the show except for Jadna Nawud, who's definitely going to die, and also no tears.
Yeah.
All right, okay,
Yep.
fair enough,
Yep.
fair enough. All right. Well, there is also around this time there is the scene with the pirate tribunal. The pirate code suggests that, or I guess requires that Jod get a trial because he's been taken back to Brutus, and Brutus wants to toss him out the airlock. He has a trial. It doesn't seem to be much of an actual trial because he's found guilty immediately. But then for some reason, another pirate says, well, wait a minute. And it's kind of it was an interesting exchange. I didn't know what to make of it because Jod is pronounced guilty. And then he keeps looking at this woman. And then the woman's like, she has this expression on her face, like, I don't want to say this, but she does. She brings up that he has the right of last appeal in the Pirates Code. So he gets to have equal time. What did you like? We'll talk about the appeal and what he says and all that, but did you like find that odd, like the whole exchange between him and that woman, the sort of silent exchange, or did you have a theory about that, or like what was going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was someone he had on the inside or someone he was just desperate and relying on and hoping for, but I mean you kind of know that it's not just him going to be like immediately sentenced to death in this moment. Like there's going to be some kind of like twist.
Yeah.
And so I think it was more of just like, okay, he's in this tough situation, but here's the thing that's going to give him, a chance.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, like the appeal makes sense because, as you say, it's not like we're actually going to watch him get walked off the plane, because that was another thing that I got a kick out of, like getting shot out the airlock. That is so the space equivalent of you're gonna have to walk the plank, right? You know what I mean? We're gonna shoot you out the airlock.
Yep.
Obviously that wasn't gonna happen, but I just wondered why. I mean, that was an editing choice. By the way, I just got done watching, no time to talk about it now, and it doesn't have anything to do with Star Wars, but I just got done watching season 3 of Twin Peaks last night, and the amount of scenes and sequences in that season of that television show where they would do the sort of the shot, reverse shot, reverse shot, like editing back and forth. Like, dude, it was so often that it would be like, okay, well, there's Cooper space, and we hold on that for like 7 seconds. and then he's talking to somebody else. He'll hold on that for like 7 seconds, then cut back to him for like 7 seconds. It was like so long. Like the editing is like so slowly paced, and like almost sometimes for comic effect, sometimes not obviously for comic effect, but they would really do that. Like normally you'd get a shot, reverse shot. Okay, you'd do it once and then you move on, right? In Twin Peaks season 3, they would do it like 3 times, 4 times in a row, and then move on. And I couldn't figure out why they did it so much. Besides, it was just quirky and just to be weird.
Yeah.
But anyway,
why does David Lynch do anything that David Lynch does? You should ask him that. He'll
yeah,
explain it to you.
yeah, no, I think he likes those kinds of questions, right? Yeah. But anyways, my point is like it seemed very intentional that we had multiple shots of like Jod, cut to her reaction, back to Jod,
Yeah.
back to her. I think it was like 2 or 3, pairs of shots like that where it was like, okay, they want us to get something out of this exchange, but I don't know what it was I was supposed to get out of it, is what I'm saying. And I don't think it's like super important, but
Yeah.
I was trying to figure that out, and I'm not sure I had a good answer for it. Anyway, Jod sings a song, not sings a song. Well, he eventually does sing a song, but Jod, does his appeal, and I thought it was great. It really built. It was like a great wrestling promo, Ryan. Actually, started out slow, and then he really built up to something very powerful. But the sort of like it would be called his "I'm hungry" promo. If we were to talk about it as a wrestling promo, and look back on it, that was his
Yeah.
"I'm hungry" promo. And I thought it was really great. Like,
Yeah.
I've been hungry for as long as I can remember. Aren't all of you guys hungry? And wouldn't you know, I can feed you. I have, if you just don't put me out that airlock, and I have, I've got the location, I've got the treasure, you just got to follow me. And even Brutus by the end of it is like, all right, we'll give you one last chance to take us to this treasure on at
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about tears in your eyes, man.
Did you have tears? That's great. Yeah.
No, he's so obviously manipulating them with complete bullshit that it's so funny cuz like he starts and he's like the camera just hangs on him and he can't even find the words. Like it's so emotional. And then, he starts with that compelling line of like, where are you going with this? I've been hungry my whole life. And, it starts as a sob story, but then it builds into this like, we're the same. You're just like me. And like, I'm here for you. I can help you achieve your dreams of like growing weed and
glow weed,
whatever else.
It's glow weed,
and,
Ryan. It's glow weed.
And he's like showing that he knows these people and he knows their hopes and dreams and he's going to help them achieve them. And it's like, yeah, it's so transparently like BS, but it works.
But with heels, like with good heels anyways, like it's always rooted in reality, right? Like a good heel storyline is not, just totally, based on nothing. Like there's truth in it, but then they manipulate that truth or whatever. And I would say that's what he's doing. Like I think it is true that he's been hungry for a long time. And it made me really wonder, like, what is his past? How did he end up here? Because there's a lot of mystery about his past and where he comes from, right? He seems to, well, he definitely knows the Force, right? And like, what is his background? Was he a pirate all the time, or like, it seems like probably not. And it seems like there's more to his backstory, and I felt like we were getting a little hint of what his past could have been, and what motivates him, right? So is he just trying to save his own skin in that moment? Is he spinning whatever story he can to get them to not execute him and make him walk off the plank into the void of space? Like, absolutely. But I think like the line he started with, I'm hungry, or I've always been hungry, I think that's 100% true. I don't think that's bullshit at all. I think he then turns it into a promo where he starts revving it up and like, yeah, he's just saying whatever he needs to say to save himself. I think, yeah, man, I think it's the truth that he's always been hungry. And I think it's true that they are too,
I feel like he's a guy who's had many opportunities in life. And I think he's made some choices, but I don't get the vibe of him being the array type character in Urchin who came up from nothing.
Well, I feel like a Han or a Kira type character.
Mm,
You know.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think it was a very very manipulative promo. We'll see how much truth there is in it.
Okay.
Right before he dies, when he gets
Okay. All right. Sure.
murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, so as the episode kind of wraps up, the kids are separated, right? KB has been sort of like, KB has helped Wim kind of fix her issue. And so then they continue to follow the follow crabs, and they wind up at a really big scary crab. And KB has a great line, which is like, I think Wim says, I think we're in trouble. And KB says, I think we're lunch. And so, yeah, they're definitely in dire straits. Luckily, while Fern and Neil were climbing up the ladder to try to get to the Black Onyx, they saw the Black Onyx was being like taken away by junk ships or something like that. And so they hop onto one of those. I was confused. I will say I was a little confused at first because they are manipulating that ship. They have like a joystick, like basically an Atari joystick or something. Fern does that she's using to like fly the ship. And I was like, wait, so on top of the Black Onyx, there's just like a joystick you can use to like, manipulate where it goes or whatever. I'm not sure. Maybe I just missed it, but I'm not sure if there was like a good shot that really established like she's on top of one of those little ships and she's, riding on that and using it to kind of pull the rest of them and the Black Onyx. I don't know. Were you at all confused by that visually or did that make sense for you right away?
I mean, I wasn't really thinking about it. Like, honestly, it was just like, well, they need to get the ship out before this monster eats it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but this is before the monster was going to eat it. I'm saying when they were flying over to get to KB and Wim. Like when she's like riding on top of the ship, like, well, whatever. Anyways, because they jump off of the ladder onto like one of those little ships, and then she's using it to fly over there. And they get in there, and when they first get over there, they're like thrown off of it, and they meet up together. The kids do, and they apologize to one another, and it's really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fern is super apologetic. She feels awful. She's like, I'm so sorry, you guys. I wasn't a good leader, whatever. Wim again tells her, you're amazing. He's like, you're awesome. Like, you came back here, like, we were about to get eaten by that giant crab, and you came back here with the ship, and like, you're amazing. This is fantastic. But then even better, and this is definitely where, little tears were making their appearance for me, was when Fern and KB are like, you're my best friend. You're my best friend. Like they're like so happy to be together again. And they're like, just making that exclamation to one another. I thought it was really, really touching and really nice. So yeah, but then before they can get away from the planet, there's like a scrapper barge that starts eating the ship. And the kids have to try to get the ship out of there. So I will tell you that as I was watching this final sequence, like more than once, I was like, just get the hell out of that ship and run away. Like that ship is getting eaten by that thing. There's no way you're getting out of there. Like, why are you guys are acting like it's either like, I guess it's the pirate code again, because they're like, we're going down with a ship. Maybe that's like Navy code. I don't know. But they seem to be like, the only option we have is to try to get this ship out of this scrapper thing. And if it doesn't happen, I guess we're just going to get chewed up by a robot,
Yeah. But luckily, there's a button for that.
Okay, Ryan, the way you say that, how did you feel about that plot point that there's a button for that, as you say?
Star Wars.
It's Star Wars and it's Skeleton Crew, right? Like in this show, sort of like you were saying about the lightsaber earlier.
Yeah.
It works.
Like, yeah. It's, I mean, it was, I think like the visual here was pretty awesome. Like it with the ship eating monster barge. I like that guy. And, I think it's like, of course, there's when the ship is in the clutches, the teeth of the monster barge, of course there's a button that allows the ship to shed its skin like a snake and then kind of take off from there.
Yeah. So, hey, that's pretty...
Forbidden button.
That's pretty convenient. But yeah, that's one of those things though where it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. If we stop and think about it for a second, or like appreciate it for a second, I guess, that was in maybe the second or maybe it was the third episode where the big button was there and it was like, don't press that button no matter what you do.
Yeah.
I guess it was 33 who told him you can't press the button, right? It wasn't Jod.
Yeah,
I think it
and
was 33.
it was like a because it was a very comic moment, if I
Yeah.
remember right. Like,
Well, and it was played for like Wim, you're such a little kid, you're such a child. I'm Fern, who's more mature than you, and
mm-hmm.
I don't have to try to press some button I'm not supposed to press. You know what I mean, or whatever. Like
Yeah,
I have self restraint, you know. So for it to be Fern was the one who had to make the decision. Like, okay, I'm going to do something here that's impulsive a little bit, right? I'm going to do something here that's taking a risk because she
yeah,
had been so much like no, like don't be a kid, whatever. Whereas Wim is like wide eyed and like, you know, Wim or Neil or whoever is like, yeah, press the button, let's do something fun, or you know what I mean, whatever. She
mm-hmm.
doesn't want to, you know, and this is the same. This coincides with this episode where she drops the tough guy persona a little bit and just says to
Yeah,
everybody like, I'm sorry, I haven't been a good leader, you know. And then so I feel like that pairs really well with her having to then like press the button, take a leap of faith, not try to be cynical and you know feign the sophistication of like I'm a grown up or whatever, but just you know kind of be
mm-hmm.
a kid or whatever, right? Press the button, see what happens. But in terms of the fact that the ship has a button that you know kind of removes that facade, I don't know. That's kind of interesting too because it's like 33 is a pirate, right? He's a pirate robot, and they have this piece of treasure, but it's all hidden. This is like a kick-ass ship, but it's meant to look like a piece of junk, right? And that's what that button does. That button
Mm-hmm.
like drops the disguise, you know, which is what Fern did in this episode. She
Ooh,
dropped the
ooh,
disguise, but also Jod, right? Jod, I'm telling you, man, that is his journey. That's what he's going to have to do before this season is over, Ryan. When he is still very much
mm.
alive, he's going to have to press that button that drops the disguise. That's what Jod's going to have to do before Skeleton Crew ends. And he's going to have
I
to
think
stop
he did
pretending
that
that
in
all
the
he cares about is
previous
treasure. What's
episode.
up?
I think he did it in the previous episode. I think he pushed that button
Maybe. Maybe,
and
maybe.
he shed the skin.
Could be. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
All right. Any other thoughts on this?
And then they just take off, right?
Yeah,
That's
they
how the
take off.
episode ends.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
take off,
They
heading towards Adatin, right? Is that where they're going?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so.
Yeah.
So there's 2 episodes left, and it's going to be really interesting to
Mm-hmm.
see kind of how things conclude. A lot of times, shows like these, I feel like and this actually happened with Twin Peaks season 3, which I watched yesterday, right? Like the end of it. The second to last episode is kind of in a lot of ways like the real finale, kind of like that's your
Yeah.
climactic episode where, you know, the kind of big moments happen, and then in the final episode, I mean, there were big moments too, but in the final episode, it's a little more of a like there's still loose ends that need to be tied up. But you know, so I'm wondering, is it like, you know, episode 7 could end with a cliffhanger that you know leads into the first half of episode, you know, 8, climactic kind of whatever, or it could be, you know, the kind of episode where like the real climax happens in that 7th episode, and then and the 8th one is kind of tying up loose ends and sort of finalizing everything. So we'll see, but either way we only have 2 episodes left here. I feel like we've been making predictions all throughout this episode, I guess, but I don't know. Do you think they end up on Adatin next episode?
I think it's hard to like do this without it getting too meta about this, and whether or not there's going to be other seasons of this show. I think there's like a few possibilities. Like maybe this show gets greenlit for another season or multiple seasons, and then they're going to be, you know, spending time kind of exploring the mystery of Adatin. It could be like a bigger thing, or this show kind of wraps up. The Skeleton Crew story wraps up in 2 weeks here, and then you just try to get as much closure as possible. I think like the Acolyte ended in a kind of awkward place where you had like a big kind of cliffhanger. In the last episode, you had many loose threads. You had your like post-credits stinger moment implying like this is something that's coming next. You had many unresolved conflicts happening and then it's canceled. And I do wonder because like prior to the Acolyte, Star Wars shows didn't get canceled. And I think we're in like then I think there was extra scrutiny with Skeleton Crew like, hey, how is this show performing? Because the last one didn't perform very well and it got canceled. It's gone. I do wonder if they had like I mean obviously there wouldn't have been enough time for like reshoots or anything like if um you know they had like a few different ways they could edit the final episode to either like because it would be very weird if the show just like ended on a massive cliffhanger and
Yeah.
then they're like yeah it's not getting renewed.
I think the Ad Atten storyline is one and done, or not one and done, but I think like the mystery of Ad Atten and will they get home to Ad Atten, all that stuff. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
done, regardless of what happens with another season or not. So I think it's going to be like they'll get home before the season's over. Personally, if they do another season, I feel like it'll have a different kind of focus or whatever. So hey, Stranger Things, Ryan, like that first season ended and like they rescued Will from the upside down, and the lone demigorgon that was terrorizing Hawkins, Indiana, was dealt with at the end of that season. And there was a sort of a cliffhanger thing where Will coughed up what turned out to be a dart. Anyway, point is like there was a little bit of like a tease for there's more story that could be told, but it wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
if they never made Stranger Things season 2, you'd be like, oh my god, that was half of a show. Whereas the Acolyte, when it
Yeah.
ended, it sort of feels a little bit like that was half of a show, right?
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah.
like this will be more like that, because even if they make a second season, these kids are gonna be like 4 years older than they were when they made the first one, or whatever. So I don't even think you can just pick up like season 2 like right where season 1 left off, even if you wanted to. So I don't know if we'll get a second season or not. I do think it will be mostly kind of wrapped up, buttoned up, and then hopefully there's like a little bit of room left to continue telling stories with those characters. Like it feels like there's some room left to continue another adventure with them. But I think this adventure will feel like completed before the season's over, or when this season's over.
Mm-hmm.
This is my
Yeah.
prediction.
Yeah. I was thinking like more because it is such a mystery centric show
Mm-hmm.
where like you know the core of the show is the mystery of Atten and then like there's also like obviously like character development and character relationships and all these things but it kind of falls in that place like again to randomly bring up Twin Peaks like Twin Peaks essentially could have ended once they solved who killed Laura Palmer. That was like the central mystery of the show, and once they solved that, it could have been over. And some people would argue it would have been better if it had ended there. Season 2 is, I think it's great, and I'm glad it exists, but it is a bit meandering in ways that I think are great. But obviously, that's not, not everyone's opinions. And then like Lost, like once they were off the island, like they could have ended the show there and then it's like nope, we're going back to the island because this show is very successful and we're kind of making you do more seasons. People would argue it was a jump the shark moment and diminishing returns from there. So yeah, I do it is interesting with like mystery centric shows like if you solve the mystery that's introduced in the first season, do you end it there or do you add more mysteries or does it just become like a new adventure or what do you do from there? So I'm really curious just like on I want to see how everything kind of shakes out in this story for sure, but like also just in like the meta sense with like the you know the the conversation that looms of is this show going to have a second season? Because that's kind of important.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right, Ryan, let's go ahead and wrap the show there. Okay. Hopefully, we'll be back next week with an episode covering the 7th episode of Skeleton Crew. Seems like a good idea since we'll be, almost to the end there of the season. Until then, if you want to share your thoughts on Jod Nabwood and why he's not really a heel, or why he's definitely going to die, or where you think the show is going, or anything else about Skeleton Crew or Star Wars or Twin Peaks, you can message us at blockaderunnerpodcast@gmail.com, or message the show or follow the show on Blue Sky. We're there as well. Or you can join our Discord, where we haven't been talking about Twin Peaks, but hey, pop in, let's talk Twin Peaks or Skeleton Crew on the Discord. And that's an option too. Ryan, if people want to follow you online or talk to you about Twin Peaks or whatnot, Stranger Things, where can they follow you?
Yeah, probably not the guy to talk about Stranger Things with. But Standard Issue Gaming on Blue Sky, and DVD Menus on Blue Sky.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for listening, and we will be back soon with another episode of the Blockade Runner Podcast.